Williams. Today we're going to talk about whether a divorce will affect your conditional residence status if you're an immigrant with that conditional residence status. So conditional residence status is one of those interesting things that exists in certain circumstances, primarily when a person marries a U.S. citizen, an immigrant and a U.S. citizen get married, and then they haven't been married for 2 years or more when the U.S. citizen petitions for the immigrant spouse. Okay, so with every kind of immigration application for residency, when they're family-based, there's a petition from the U.S. citizen family member or lawful permanent resident family member, and then there's the application that the immigrant files. So again, if you file that application before 2 years of marriage, you're going to get a green card, sure, but that green card might only be for 2 years, okay? In the event that you get a 2-year green card, then that means you've been given conditional permanent residence, and you have to file a form to take away those conditions in 2 years. That form requires the signature of the U.S. citizen spouse and the immigrant spouse. But what happens if there's a divorce? So this is a problem, and the reason that conditional residency exists is because we want to weed out, sham marriages or fake marriages. And that can be a problem for an immigrant who didn't engage in a fake marriage or a sham marriage, but for whatever reason, life circumstances, the marriage just didn't work out the way that everyone hoped. And so the immigrant has to file to remove conditions, but they can't get a signature from the U.S. citizen spouse. And the spouse isn't willing to help or provide any explanation as to why they're divorced or those kinds of things. So this legitimately happens, and we do frequently help clients who have gone through a divorce or separation and for whatever reason prior to the ending of the 2 years of conditional residence status. And we sometimes see allegations from USCIS that a person engaged in a marriage solely for immigration purposes. So the good news is that you can file to remove conditions on your residency by yourself. It's just that you need to explain what happened. So in the event that, for example, you had children, it's pretty clear that you can just provide evidence, hey, we had children together. We didn't do this just for immigration purposes. People rarely have children solely for immigration purposes. So you would present evidence of children. If, as is unfortunately the case for some of the clients we see, the U.S. citizen spouse engaged in some kind of abuse or control or power play, the way they see it, then that's another piece of evidence that you can present. The purpose or the focus of the application when you want to remove conditions in your permanent residence is going to be proving that the marriage was legitimate in the first place and explaining why you're not married anymore. Now, when you first petitioned and applied for residency, you already had to provide plenty of evidence that your marriage was legitimate. And so you might have to go through that again. You might need affidavits or detailed statements, written statements from people who knew about your relationship and knew about your marriage and can explain why you're no longer married. But then again, you also might need evidence, like I mentioned, such as birth certificates. You had to show previously evidence of financial commingling. When you're removing conditions, you're going to have to show evidence of were your finances actually commingled while you lived together, and then how did they separate, and kind of where are you at now? So when you lack, for example, children to a marriage, those things become very important. What is important is that you should talk to your attorney. If you're going to file a loan to remove conditions in your permanent residency, I highly encourage and recommend that you get an attorney because these kinds of applications can be tricky. And if you get a request for evidence, you might not have a lot of time to respond. We do occasionally get clients who tried this on their own and then discovered, oh no, I really need help on this. And then it might cost them more in the long term because they didn't hire an attorney to help them get it right the first go around. So it is important to seek help if you have to remove conditions on your own. So again, back to the question, will a divorce affect my conditional residence status? Yeah, it's going to be something that comes up. But that doesn't mean it's that your immigration status is over. There are things that you can do and steps that you can take, but it's best to get an attorney to help guide you through some of these things.
And so if you need help with removing conditions from your permanent residence, you can give us a call at 804-477-1720. You can read more information on our website at tingenwilliams.com, and we look forward to helping you with your case.